Welcome to the Breaking News Bears podcast. I'm your host, Chris Capone, joined outside my co-host once again, Evan Davis, and Vladimir Guerrero Jr. has officially made it official. He has signed his 14-year, $500 million contract extension with the Toronto Blue Jays, including a hefty signing bonus of 325 million. Now, there's many questions to ask about this, including who's in next in line to get a huge payday? Kyle Tucker? Maybe? We also have to talk about some of the breakout stars in MLB that have been popping off recently. So first, Evan, I'll ask you though, what do you think about the Vladimir Guerrero Jr. contract extension, just in the whole grand scheme of things?
Well, in the whole grand scheme of things, you look at it towards the back end of this contract, it's $37 million to a 40-year-old hitter, 39-year-old hitter, but maybe this is the start of something new in Toronto where now that Vladdy's locked up, like now maybe more players are going to be willing to go to Toronto because, I'm sure if you're a big star, do I want to go to Toronto when I don't know if Vladdy's going to be there? Like, I don't want to go and then Vladdy leaves the next year. Like, that just doesn't make sense for my career. So, maybe, a lot of the big free agents are now obviously gone, like a Soto, Ohtani, whatever, but there's always going to be more free agents. We mentioned, Kyle Tucker could be a name that the Blue Jays go after. I know they don't need outfielders, but screw it. You find room for him. Like, there's no one better on the Blue Jays. There's no one better than Kyle Tucker on the Blue Jays right now. So, I just think this could be the start of something new in an AL East that, while it is competitive, is still fairly wide open. The Blue Jays, although their starting pitching staff is on the back end of their career, they still have a nice, solid pitching staff. And for Vladdy, I mean, hopefully this is the start of uh, the season now for him because the start of this year has not been good for him. It could be maybe because the contract negotiations were looming. Obviously, it's the beginning of the year, but zero home runs and only four RBIs with a 6.64 OPS. I know he got off to a slow start last year, but you can't keep having these slow starts. You got now you're paid the big bucks. Now you got to make it happen.
Yeah, the whole heart of this team is Vladdy now, and that's guaranteed for sure. Like for the next 14 years, he is going to be the face of the franchise. And what everyone thinks of when they think of the Blue Jays, it's going to be Vladdy. And you talk about it with potential other free agents potentially going over to the Jays now. And you talk about like a Kyle Tucker or someone else who could be in the same sort of situation where, uh, you know, Kyle Tucker needs to sign an extension with the Cubs. Like the Cubs need to be desperate and try and offer him a lot of money.
Hmm.
What does this mean for their situation? What does this mean for every other free agent? Now knowing that, okay, obviously not every free agent is the caliber of Soto and Ohtani that they're going to be making record breaking deals in back-to-back off seasons. But Vladdy's like around that like 15 to 20 range of like best players in baseball, and he's making 500 million.
Hmm.
What does this mean for other players in baseball that are maybe above Vladdy's caliber, but are not in that same kind of pay grade? Like
Hmm.
you need to I know his and average annual value is only going to be around like 35 million, but
Hmm.
still that's a lot of money guaranteed to a guy that's going to be playing first base for the next 14 years.
Hmm.
There are other players out there that play harder positions, center field, right field, anybody in the outfield or even shortstop that are
Hmm.
making way less money for almost not similar term of contract, but for a really long time.
Hmm.
It's just what more are the teams going to have to start paying now? And will a salary cap eventually be implemented by MLB to kind of limit this?
Yeah, and I think, when you look at it, a salary cap, does it make sense? That's been a huge debate going on in baseball, and as much as the fans say that they hate it, players and the owners love it. And I don't see I look, Jeff Passan's talking about a lockout in the coming years, but I don't see an avenue where the players would want to go to a salary cap because in what other league is anyone making 500 million, $765 million? Like the players would be stupid to want a salary cap because now they're just hurting themselves here. And we'll get into like which potential stars could be making this type of money. But look, I think baseball more than any sport kind of deserves to not have a salary cap because guys are playing so many more games. I mean, you look at a guy like Vladdy, who's consistently playing around 140 games a year. NHL players, 82 games. I know it's a little bit more grueling in the NHL, but it's still the consistent availability of these players. It's why Soto got paid all that money. Like, how many times do we really see, knock on wood, but how many times do we see Juan Soto out of the lineup because of an injury? Like, he's consistently in the lineup. A guy like Otani is always going to be there as the DH for you. So I look at and I'm just thinking, a guy like Vladdy who's consistent that wants to get paid a lot of money, like he deserved all of that money. And I don't see it going in a different direction with baseball.
Yeah, and you bring that up where it's like a salary cap would ruin a lot of things for players personally. And I do think some, like you said, Jeff Hassan brings up that there's probably going to be a lockout sometime soon. And we just finished one heading into the 2022 season where,
Mhm.
we started the 2022 season late because of debates. And that's what, uh, like, MLB doesn't want this. MLB doesn't want
Yeah.
lockouts, but it seems so far that like players and owners are getting stretched apart further from
Hmm.
each other. And it
Hmm.
just seems like eventually it's going to come to an impasse where it's another lockout. And it seems like baseball is the one sport where it constantly happens with lockouts, where it's like, you know, constant disagreements with the cap and how much players should be getting paid and how much
Yeah.
this and that, and minor league players are a whole other situation too. It's just the precedent that this contract sets now, or not this contract, but what the past couple of really huge contracts, record-breaking contracts have set, is just you think about it back then when Mike Trout signed his first big deal, or the previous biggest contract in MLB history of 426 million, and how unprecedented that was. Now we're getting around and we're saying, oh, like Kyle Tucker, he should be worth 500 million, and like
Hmm.
everyone nowadays is just like it just keeps going up, and eventually when are we going to hit in $1 billion contract? That's
I
never going to
mean,
happen.
I don't know if
But
we'll ever see another Soto or Otani like,
yeah,
but
yeah, that one I'm just joking. But like,
yeah.
how far can it go to a
Hmm.
point where some owners are like, all right, slow down, wait a minute, maybe we got to think something through.
Yeah. I don't know, but maybe we segue over to a guy like Ellie De La Cruz, who's also obviously
Hmm.
going to be looking for a massive contract. And look, it's no disrespect to Ellie. I just don't think he's a $500 million player at this very moment. He strikes out a lot, although he is a power hitter and he is a speedster. You got to remember, this is a guy that he's got like a 30% K rate. He doesn't walk a ton. He's electric on the field. He has the shining moments defensively, just given the fact that he's huge. Um, but
Pause.
but you look at a guy like him and you think, are the Cincinnati Reds like they got to start thinking about locking this guy up now?
Hmm.
Because the longer you go with this, and this was the problem that the Blue Jays had, was the longer you let Ellie go through arbitration, the more his value is eventually going to grow and grow once he hits unrestricted free agency. But, you look at someone like him, obviously Christian Campbell of the Red Sox got locked up for, a pretty big ticket, but yeah, I even look at a guy like Mackenzie Gore on the Nationals, where it's, a left-handed pitcher that has elite strikeout ability is hard to come by. If I'm the Nationals, I got to lock him up sooner rather than later because if Mackenzie Gore hits the open market and his career projects the way that we think his career is going to project, you're talking about a $250 million pitcher, realistically, given his age and ability, and the fact that he's a young gun at only 26 years old that has proven to be a very solid number two pitcher on a really good team and a number one on a solid team. But you look around the league and it's like, I think teams got to start doing more of what the Atlanta Braves were doing, which is, locking guys up early in their contracts. I mean, I know Junior Caminario hasn't had the greatest start to his year, but that's another guy where the Tampa Bay Rays, they kind of got to figure something out here with him too. I think these owners are now thinking we got to sign these guys ASAP because if we don't, like, we're just digging ourselves into a bigger hole.
Yeah, you talk about with like smaller market teams, especially like you bring up the Nationals, the Reds. Another
That's what I'm
player that
mainly focused on.
yeah, another player could be like James Wood, somebody like him, who's had an electric start to his career and no,
I love you, James. My
but I'm
rookie of the
serious.
year.
But what was I gonna say? With these younger players and you know they're on the clock immediately.
Hmm.
As soon as they get called up to the MLB,
Hmm.
to these smaller market teams, if they aren't already determining like what they could be making straight out the gate,
Hmm.
they'll most likely be put off and have their go through arbitration years and eventually have their value put all the way up to a point where the Nationals say, screw it, we couldn't pay Juan Soto, we can't pay you.
Hmm.
Uh, so when do we get to the point where a lot of these teams start saying we got to start figuring out ways to pay these guys early, but a lot of these guys want to bet on themselves and see if they can get around this like $500 million range.
And we haven't even talked about Paul Skeens yet. Like,
Yeah.
what are the Pirates going to do? Because I swear to God, if you let Paul Skeens go for nothing, like you just lost your entire fan base. This might be one of the best right hand. Like this is like Kerry Wood, a guy who has strikeout ability, throws a 102 mile per hour fastball, has a nice pitch mix. You can't let him go. And if you're the Pirates, like the clock is ticking. Like the longer you go without signing Paul Skeens, like I get it. Like it's a pitcher, so it's a completely different situation. But man, if I'm the Pirates, like what's stopping you right now from here's 10 years, $300 million? Like realistically, I don't see what's stopping the Pirates from doing that. Maybe it's the fact that they just don't have the money and the owners are like, well, let's see what happens. But Paul Skeens should be like, there shouldn't be a question that Paul Skeens pitches for another team. And I think that's another one where the Pirates, like maybe if it's not this summer, maybe if it's not this year during the year, but like this coming summer, like you got to offer Skeens a big, big contract.
Well, the Pirates have already showed they're a bit of a poverty franchise. I don't know if you saw, but they removed the Roberto
Oh yeah.
Clemente uh, decal in their outfield and put an ad over it. And then recently they took down that there was like this display where Pirates fans put like deceased family members on their
Yeah.
bricks, and then they tore that down and threw it in a dump. So the
And the
Pirates
Pirates said
aren't
they had no clue about it.
yeah, and so the Pirates aren't in the best situation right now. But like you said, these teams have to still lock up these players, and
Hmm.
especially someone like Paul Skeens. Like your franchise had Garrett Cole, and you
Hmm.
saw how that turned out where when he left, and still obviously he's hurt right now, but still turned out he's going to be a Hall of Famer. You
Yeah.
cannot make the same mistake with Paul Skeens. You've
Hmm.
already had this happen to you once before,
Hmm.
but sometimes these owners and these teams are fine with it. They're fine with staying middle of the pack,
Hmm.
just slightly making a profit and then, going year by year after that. They don't care about playoff success. It's just
Yeah.
about making profit every year. And if Paul Skeens can make you a profit when he's making as little as money as possible going through arbitration and
Hmm.
then eventually leaves and goes to the Yankees and and finishes his career there, that's fine for the Pirates as long as they made their big bucks during the time that he was there. But yeah,
Yeah. And yeah, I agree. I agree with you.
and speaking of these big stars, there's been a lot of breakout stars recently in MLB. I bring up James Wood, but one of the real surprising ones that I wasn't 100% confident in. Kyron Paris has been a really good
Yeah.
has had an amazing start to the offseason or to the regular season
Hmm.
for the Los Angeles Angels, and he's looked insane. He just keeps hitting the piss out of the ball and he just keeps hitting the piss out of it. Like he keeps smacking balls after he had two really short cups of coffee with the Angels in 23 and 24, but he started off 24 or 25 like on fire and he's looked insane.
Yeah, a small sample size, only 21 at bats, but he's got 3 home runs, 6 RBIs, 4 stolen bases. I think he's the first to reach that mark, like the 3 home runs and 4 stolen bases through players like first 10 games. It is since or ever or like through at least their first 9 games now that it is
Yeah,
in Angels franchise history. He's batting 429 with a 1500 OPS. He's riding a hot streak.
yeah,
There's no other way to put it. And, the Angels are notorious for not giving guys the opportunity to really get acclimated to the minor leagues. They want them in the major leagues as quick as possible. I'm not going to get too overly hyped about this. Look, we know that Paris has the speed. I mean, he was a very high draft pick for a reason, a California native, but. I'll wait, I'll wait to see. I'm not trying to discredit anything. 9 hits and 21 at-bats is incredible with a 538 on base percentage. But again, pitchers are unfamiliar with him. They're eventually going to figure him out. But yeah, no, it's an incredible start to the year and a pretty fun start for the Angels.
yeah.
Not Los Angeles, though.
But yeah, some others big stars that have started off. I obviously yeah, I did bring up James Wood. But there Jacob Wilson has been another really interesting story
Oh,
for the I just picked him up in fantasy today.
yeah.
Because
Oh, I drafted him.
he's been an insane he's hitting 400, but you talk about like his minor league career where last year he hit 433, I think, in the minor
Hmm.
leagues, something insane like that.
Hmm.
And now he started off the season ablaze. 18 hits in 12 games so far, two home
Hmm.
runs, 7 RBIs, and 1,000 OPS.
Hmm.
He's looked insane to start the season too.
Yeah, I mean, he's killing my Jackson Job for AL Rookie of the Year pick. Jacob Wilson has a hit in every single game. Like
Yeah,
he has been incredible. And if you look at it, his career regular season in the major leagues, he's batting 300. Like
yeah.
this is a guy and that's over 137 plate appearances. So, I mean, he's no slouch. He's a contact hitter, which maybe that will allow my boy Jackson Jobe to still win AL Rookie of the Year. I mean, he's only hit 2 home runs in his career with 10 RBIs, both those home runs coming this year. But this is a guy who, everyone was huge on coming out of the draft back in 2023, and he kind of just flew through the minor leagues. And God, I can't wait for him to get traded to like the Braves or like the Dodgers or something like that. Because you look at the A's, and it's the only thing that pains me is if they had kept everyone, which obviously financially they couldn't. But if you could have kept like your Matt Olson, your Sean Murphy, maybe a guy like Mania, and then you have Jacob Wilson. I mean, we're talking about a AL West that's completely wide open for the most part. We all think that Texas Rangers are going to win the division, but if the A's just had money, like
Yeah.
they could be the number 2 team. They could be for a wild card team right now. They could be
Mason, yeah, Mason Miller is their closer. Like the pitching
I
staff they
mean,
already had, and then traded some of their top guys, and they
God,
they'd be a wagon.
they in how weak the American League is, like who's to say they couldn't be like the number 2 wild card team? Like it just sucks that they have all this young talent, but it's not working periodically where it's like it's kind of just in spurts, like here's this guy, here's this guy, but it's never consistent over a long period of time. But damn, like Jacob Wilson is so good, and I think a lot of people, and rightfully so, were really high on him coming out of the draft.
Yeah, and another one of their young guys, Tyler Soderstrom,
Yeah,
6 home runs leading the league. He got hurt yesterday though, but another young guy who,
yeah.
had previous cups of coffee with the Angel or with the Athletics, and he was
Hmm.
another guy too where he didn't look good in his first 2 seasons, or his first season in baseball in
Hmm.
2023 or first season in the majors. He didn't look good at all, negative 1.1 WAR, but
Hmm.
now he's already at a 1.1 WAR, 6 home runs, tied for the league with Aaron Judge, and he's looked
Yeah.
incredible to start this year too.
Hmm.
It's just really unfortunate that a lot of these guys, like you said, it's spurts. It's one guy's doing good here, one guy's doing good here, and then it's, oh, we've already traded them by next year. Like
Yeah.
it, it's not. I'd hate being. I mean, I'd hate being an A's fan, not because of, you know. not being consistently good. It's just ownership. Like,
Hmm.
I can't wait for when they do get to Vegas if they're willing to spend more money. Because then everything would be different. If they're
Maybe they
willing
hit
to,
a parlay.
yeah, if they're willing to spend money on these guys and keep some of the actual good young prospects that have been proven, like
Hmm.
you bring up how they could have had Sean Murphy, Matt Olson. They could be the Braves. They could be the Braves. They like
Yeah.
if they were just willing to spend money early on these guys and lock them up long term, they'd have a really solid team right now. And like you said, could be battling for multiple years at the top of the AL West.
Yeah, they could have been Ozuna from the Braves, but
Yeah.
now we will never know. Another guy that I wanted to talk about was Wilyer Abreu,
Mm,
because for as much flack as we give Heim Bloom and all of that, and I mean rightfully so, he's made some pretty horrible trades, Mookie Betts to start us off, but
mm.
you look at Wilyer Abreu and the Boston Red Sox got Abreu for in exchange for Christian Vasquez when he got traded to the Houston Astros. And Vasquez only ended up being there for 3 months. And Wilyer Abreu has now turned into the outfielder of the future, for this Red Sox team. He's only 25 years old. He has that perfect mix where he's also a left-handed batter. So those we know are hard to come by. Batting 412 with a 13. He leads the MLB in OPS among
Yeah.
qualified hitters. 12 RBIs, 3 home runs. I mean, there was a reason why I wanted to pick the Boston Red Sox to win the American League East. I just think if all of these young guys, again, like a lot of these guys have high floors and very low ceilings, but Wilyer Abreu at least getting off to this hot start is pretty encouraging just because, I mean, you looked at his 2024 year is definitely up and down, and that goes for every true rookie, but he was still able to play in 132 games, 15 home runs, had a 322 on base percentage. I This guy, he's mashing right now, and I just think, for as much flack as we give Heim Bloom, I mean, what a home run trade this has been for them because yeah, I mean, he's Wilyer Abreu's a right fielder. You kind of basically got a cheaper Mookie Betts that can hit lefty instead of righty.
Yeah, and if he continues to develop in the way that he has been, that's just such a dangerous thing. They got him for Christian Vasquez, who's had negative WAR ever since leaving Boston. Every single year since leaving
Yeah,
Boston, negative WAR.
yeah.
So you got a replacement level catcher, or you traded away a replacement level catcher, and got one of the future cornerstones of your franchise to play right field. Masterclass there, disaster class for every other trade he's done. Uh,
Yeah, it's like, I got this one though. I got
yeah.
this one.
Yeah, the Devers contract, another one of them too, where that
Oh,
that can end up looking bad too. But anyways, that'll just about do it for this episode of Breaking News Bears. I once again want to thank you guys, the listeners. I once again want to thank my co-host Evan Davis. Be sure to like and subscribe. Thank you for listening to another episode of Breaking News Bears.